Graves, Chairman DeFazio, Ranking Member Graves, and other members of the committee, it is my honor to appear today before the Subcommittee on Aviation. Like Americans and many others around the world, I'm shocked and saddened by these two awful tragedies and terrible loss of life. I just met the parents of 24-year-old Samia Stumo, and I saw in their eyes the incomprehensible immensity of their loss. These crashes are demonstrable evidence that our current system of aircraft design and certification has failed us. These accidents should never have happened. The accident investigations of these crashes will be not completed for many months, but some things are clear. Accidents are the end result of a causal chain of events, but in this case, the chain began with decisions that had been made years before to update a half-century-old design. Boeing added MCAS, but the existence of it was not communicated to pilots until after the first crash. Some have said that even though MCAS software had flaws, the pilots on these flights should have performed better and been able to solve the sudden, unanticipated crisis they faced. Boeing has said that they did not categorize a failure of MCAS as more critical because they assumed that pilot action would be the safeguard. From my 52 years of flying experience and my many decades of safety work, I know that we must consider all the human factors of these accidents and how system design determines how many and what kinds of errors will be made and how consequential they will be. These two recent crashes happened in foreign countries, but if we do not address all the important issues and factors, they can and will happen here. We owe it to everyone who flies, passengers and crews alike, to make sure that pilots will be able to handle an unexpected emergency and keep their passengers and crew safe. But first, we should design aircraft for them to fly that do not have inadvertent traps set for them. I'm one of a relatively small group of people who have experienced such a crisis and lived to share what we learned about it. I can tell you firsthand that the startle factor is real and it's huge. It absolutely interferes with one's ability to quickly analyze the crisis and take effective action. Within seconds, these crews would have been fighting for their lives in the fight of their lives. In both 737 MAX accidents, the failure of a single angle of attack sensor quickly caused multiple instrument indication anomalies and sudden, loud, and in some cases false warnings, creating major distractions, masking the cause, and would have made it even harder to quickly analyze the situation and take effective corrective action. I recently experienced all these warnings in a 737 MAX flight simulator during recreations of the accident flights. Even knowing what was going to happen, I could see how crews could have run out of time before they could have solved the problems. Prior to these accidents, I think it is unlikely that any U.S. airline pilots were confronted with this scenario in simulator training. We must make sure that everyone who occupies a pilot seat is fully armed with the information, knowledge, training, skill, and judgment to be able to be the absolute master of the aircraft and all its component systems and of the situation simultaneously and continuously throughout the flight. As aviation has become safer, we can no longer define safety solely as the absence of accidents. We must do much more than that. We must be more proactive than that. In essence, we must investigate accidents before they happen. We should all want pilots to experience these challenging situations for the first time in a simulator and not in flight with passengers and crew on board. And reading about it on an iPad is not even close to sufficient. Pilots must experience it physically, firsthand. If we don't learn from these crashes, if we just file the findings away on a shelf to gather dust, we will only compound these tragedies. We will make the loss of lives in these accidents even more tragic if we say that these were just black swan events, unlikely to happen again, and decide not to act, and instead just protect the status quo. Only by discovering and correcting the ways in which these tragedies occurred can we begin to regain the trust of our passengers, flight attendants, pilots, and the American people.